It is unusual and surely without precedence for the meeting of the Council of Ministers of Human and Social Development of the OECS to be held virtually. That is without the face-to-face interaction and camaraderie that is associated with such a gathering. But these are uncommon times, and sometimes we need to resort to uncommon responses. Doing things outside the box, as we commonly say. The impact of COVID-19 has not only forced changes to the mode of this meeting, but has also influenced the content of our agenda. The theme, No One Left Behind, Empowering People, Building Resilient Communities, is very fitting and pertinent to the current global crisis and the effect it is having on the people of this region, especially the poor and vulnerable. The phrase, No One Left Behind, is the promise of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and its Sustainable Development Goals. It is built on the belief that collaborative partnerships will help deliver transformative change toward a more inclusive, equitable, and resilient society. It represents our commitment to eradicating poverty in all forms, ending discrimination and exclusion, and reducing the inequalities and vulnerabilities that leave people behind. Over the past few months, we have seen drastic and sharp increases in unemployment due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which is expected to be reflected in increased poverty levels across the region. This reality is more glaring in the tourism sector, which is not only the mainstay of most regional economies, but is also the largest employment sector. Our resources have rapidly depleted as we try to widen the spread of our social assistance programs to cater for the newly poor or vulnerable population, but we remain committed to supporting this target group. In that regard, we are thankful for the assistance given by donor agencies who themselves are struggling to remain afloat in these turbulent waters, and we look forward to continued collaboration for effective social protection. Ladies and gentlemen, the number of vulnerable persons has become very extensive, as people who were once self-sufficient are now on the breadline seeking public assistance. And from my research, there are various factors that serve as the key to understanding who is left behind and why. The 5 most prominent ones are discrimination, place of residence, socioeconomic status, governance, and vulnerability to shocks. From our vantage point as small island developing states, we can identify with all of these factors. For many of us, the year 2020 may be considered the most challenging time in the post-9/11 era. This, coupled with COVID-19, our societies are plagued with a malaise of problems such as climate change, economic downturns, crime and violence, and a decaying social fabric. And so, in my view, if ever there was a time to turn our focus on building resilient and sustainable communities, it is now. Building resilient communities calls for building strong neighborhoods and socially cohesive communities that are self-sustaining. Charles Darwin, 1859, argues that cohesive communities are resilient communities, and resilient communities are those most sustainable. The answer to many of the perennial social problems that I have identified lies in our ability to empower our citizens. As leaders, we need to provide opportunities and access to everyone in various fields to develop their capabilities and potential, to actively participate in the development and decision-making of their community, and by extension, their nation. Empowerment may through skills training, education, access to financial resources, provision of social amenities, and primary and psychosocial health care. These will help promote citizen well-being, influence positive social change, and enhance government services.